good afternoon, and good evening. I am your host, Terry Bates, and I am here with a guest today. If you don't mind, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm James Wilson. I'm currently serving as the 95th Student Government Association President here at Georgia State University. Happy to be here.
All right, I appreciate it. So, you being the president of Georgia State, you've had a lot of experiences, being the leader. What's the most common type of inquiries that you get as a student leader?
That's a good question. I'd say the most common type of inquiries that we get are students wanting to know exactly what administration is doing about a certain issue. So students already know whatever the issue may be, whether it's safety, whether it's related to academics, whether it's related to our health services. They already know that things are going on because the university is constantly broadcasting messages, constantly sending emails and newsletters. But a lot of students want to know specifically, what are they doing specifically? How will it impact me? Will it cost me more when I go to pay my tuition and fees next year? And how can we make sure that the university does what it says it's going to do?
Hmm.
And that's our job as SGA, is to be that liaison between students and administrators so that students know that administrators are working hard to really serve their interests.
And how often would you say that you're able to help people with their own problems?
I'd say pretty often, pretty frequently. Another thing that we do in SGA is that we're kind of a connector. So we connect students to different resources that they may not know about.
Hmm.
So if we have a student, for example, who is experiencing some type of food insecurity, they may not know that we have a Panther Pantry. We
Hmm.
have an area of campus where they can go and get access to free food, and a lot of times nutritious food. If we have a student that, say, is walking campus late at night, they don't want to walk alone, they may not know that we have an escort service that will literally have a security officer drive them from point A to point B to make sure they get to where they need to go safely. So I think that's another thing that we do a lot and that we do well is connect students to different resources.
Mm. Now, I know a lot of people don't understand what it really takes to be an SGA leader because I know you devote a lot of time. How much time do you devote to it?
This is a job. This is absolutely a job. I would say it's got to be upwards of 20 hours a week.
Hmm.
Because I mean, even before I met you for this interview, I was at a safety meeting
Hmm.
that a few of our officers held with their college, which was great. And then I left that safety meeting, went back to my office, sat down. I was working on a flyer and a graphic because tomorrow is our inauguration ceremony and we're doing a farewell breakfast. So I was working on that. And then as soon as I leave here, I will continue working on that and really broadcasting that message and letting folks know to come show out. So this is a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot of work. And I don't say that necessarily to complain. I just say to be honest. A
Yeah.
lot of times people will stop me and they'll say, "Hey, I want to join SGA." And I say, "Okay, do you want to actually join SGA? Do you want to join SGA or do you want to commit to SGA?"
Hmm.
That's two different things.
And I feel like a lot of people might just want to join.
Exactly. Joining and committing are two totally different things. When you join SGA, you're in it as long as it's good, you're in it as long as it's fun, you're in it as long as you have some spotlight or some platform to stand on. But
Hmm.
when you commit to SGA, you're committed to doing the work that nobody gets to see. And
Hmm.
that's the work that takes me the longest. The work that takes me the absolute longest is the work that nobody gets to see and that people don't really get to appreciate like that. So I would say it's a big time commitment. But again, I think it's worth it.
Yeah. And it must have been a long journey to become an SGA leader. Is it the same here as it is for other schools? Do you have to be a junior or senior to
No,
become?
no, actually, my predecessor, he's a really good friend of mine, like a brother. He ran for president when he was a freshman,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and he served as president when he was a sophomore. So you don't have to be a junior or a senior. Now, I ran as a junior. I'm serving now as a senior. I ran again for reelection, and I will continue serving as a graduate student. I'll be in my first year of my master's program.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'll be serving one term this term as a senior, and then another term as a first year graduate student.
And now you said a master's program. So what are you getting your bachelor's in?
So my bachelor's degree is in public policy with a minor in urban education. My
Mhm.
master's degree will either be in public policy or public administration. So I'll either get my MPP, Master's of Public Policy, or my MPA, Master's of Public Administration.
And what would be the difference between the two if you decide to go either route?
So public policy, that's more the study of problem solving. So you're doing a lot more writing, you're doing a lot more research. It takes a lot more mentally,
Hmm.
and it's a lot more collaboration as well. Whereas public administration is more of learning the nuts and bolts of how the government works,
Mm.
learning how to operate the government, learning how to create and implement a budget, learning how to find and work with other governmental agencies, learning how, what role do nonprofits and non-governmental organizations play in the governance of a city or a state or a country. So public administration is more learning about how the government functions and how you can help make it function. Public policy is more studying the science, I say, of problem solving.
Hmm. Now, you did mention like nonprofits. Is that where you see yourself after you get out of school, or
No. So I don't want to work for nonprofits. I do want to work for a government,
okay?
preferably for like maybe like the state Department of Education, maybe the National Department of Education if we still have it.
Yeah, yeah,
But I see myself doing something more like that.
yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a whole different discussion.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
um, what was it like before you became an SGA president? Were there other positions that you ran for?
Yes. So I joined SGA as a freshman. That was in 2021.
Hmm.
I started off as a freshman liaison. I just represented my freshman class. Then I served as the Senate clerk, recording our meetings, keeping up with documents, doing that kind of thing, doing some administrative work for SGA. Then I served as a senator from my college, the Andrew Young School. Then I served as the Speaker of the Senate, so I presided over all the Senate meetings. I served temporarily as Executive Vice President of the campus.
Hmm.
So I represented all the students on the Atlanta campus for about a month. I was an interim, so I wasn't, filling the role permanently. And then I went back to being Speaker of the Senate, and then I ran for president and won president from there. So I have served in just about every role you can serve in our SGA.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this definitely is a long journey.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you're able to find a lot of free time, but if you do, how do you balance being a student, being a leader, and having enough free time to do the things you want to do?
That's a good question. It's one I think about a lot because it's hard to find balance. I personally don't believe that you can find a perfect balance. I don't
Mm,
believe that you can find the perfect balance between student government, schoolwork, your personal life, your family life.
mm-hmm,
I don't believe that there's going to be a perfect balance. I think it's all about I need to know what I'm prioritizing.
mm,
And I need to know the order of things that I prioritize. And I also need to know that I have to make time for myself.
yeah,
And I think that my friends are really good at holding me accountable and making sure that they ask me, what are you doing for fun? What are you doing to take care of yourself? Why are your nails so long? Cut your nails. Take some time. Take some time to sit down and
yeah,
take care of yourself first.
yeah,
It's hard to find balance. It really is hard, and I don't think that I've found it yet. But I do think that I recognize that you have to first every day. Every day is an opportunity for you to know what are my priorities,
mm.
how am I going to attend to my priorities, and where do I fall in the mix of my priorities.
Do you feel like you're losing your mind every once in a while, trying to find, okay, this is what I need to do, and this is what I need to do?
No, I don't because we get breaks.
Mm-hmm,
Because we have breaks, that is a time that I take to reinvest in myself.
mm-hmm,
Also
yeah,
because I've really broken that barrier of I don't feel bad for doing nothing. I don't feel bad for sitting back and having a day where I just do nothing, where I just lay down and just watch TV. I just lay down, I eat, I watch TV, I take a walk, I
yeah,
I just do nothing. I
yeah.
don't feel
We
bad about
all
that.
need that.
Yeah, we all need that. I used to feel guilty about that. I used to feel like that was lazy. Like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be doing something. What am I supposed to be doing right now?" I don't feel bad about it anymore. Now I look forward to those days and I really embrace those days.
Yeah, I would say I have the same feeling every once in a while, but breaks are important. If you don't
Mm,
have them, you're gonna lose your mind.
yeah.
So, what's some advice you could give to someone who might want to become an SGA president themselves?
Some advice that I would give is if you don't actually love your university, love the student body, love what your university stands for, if you don't have love for your university, I don't think that you'll find a lot of success.
Hmm.
You have to really love what you're doing to do this because it's a time consuming job, it's a demanding job, it's a job where you get pulled into a lot of different directions.
Hmm.
It takes a lot. It does take a lot. So you have to actually love what it is you're doing
Yeah,
and love the people that you're doing it for. There's a lot of love in my heart for Georgia State University and for the people at Georgia State, for the students, for the staff, for the faculty, for the administrators, and I feel that love come back to me. I don't feel like it's wasted. I give love and I feel that love come back in return. So my advice is number one, you have to love your university. Number two, get some experience in SGA. I would not recommend just running for president with no experience. What has made me so effective is that I have been in SGA now for as long as I have been at Georgia State. Almost every second that I've been a student is a second that I've been in SGA at Georgia State. And that's allowed me to learn how the organization works,
Mm-hmm.
learn how the organization can function better. It's allowed me to make connections with administrators. It's allowed me to build connections with students.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to, like I said, my predecessor, he served 1 year in SGA and then ran for president. So he served his freshman year, then he ran in his freshman year and won, and then was president his sophomore year. Just a year. Get experience in your SGA. Love your university. And my last one is don't fully commit to SGA. Go branch out and be a part of different orgs too. Because the knowledge that I have from different organizations, I use that knowledge every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was SGA president, I was the president of our Student Alumni Association. I was a
Okay.
1913 Society ambassador. I was in the Red Cross Club. I was in this and that and on a number of other committees. So don't just dedicate all of yourself to SGA. Branch out and then bring all that knowledge back to your role.
Yeah, and you did mention being an effective leader in comparison to the other leaders you have seen before you. Do you believe you live up to the standard or a greater standard?
A greater standard. Um, my predecessor really set the bar for me. He really
Mm-hmm.
set the bar. The first, and I look back at like, I learned a lesson from each and every single president that I had. So my first president when I came, her name was Brianna. I love Brianna. I think that Brianna taught me, she really showed me what passion looks like in college. I could
Mm-hmm.
tell that she was passionate about everything that she did. My second president, he really taught me the importance of making your voice heard. He taught me and he showed me, by watching him, if you don't say anything, if you're just quiet all the time,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to get to a point where they don't care what you have to say.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very true. So you have to know when it's important to speak and when it's important to listen. And I think that watching him, I learned that from him.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to find that balance and know this is my time to speak. This is my time to listen. This is when I should be in the room. This is when I shouldn't be in the room. These are the places that I should go. These are the places that I shouldn't go as president. So he really, I think I learned that from watching him. And then my predecessor, Xavier, I think that watching him as president, I think it just showed me really the importance of keeping your fingers on the pulse of the organization, knowing what's going on at all times. You need to know what's going on in your organization,
Mm-hmm.
especially because SGA is a large organization. We've got 112 or 110 total positions. And normally we have between 70 and 90 officers.
Okay,
So
so
it's a big
70,
organ.
90. Okay.
And think about that too. We got 6 campuses. We have 6 campuses. We have online senators,
Mm-hmm.
and we have 6 campuses. We have others. We've got different properties and things like that. So it's a big organization.
Yeah.
I mean, even 70 people is a lot. So you've got to keep a pulse on what's going on at this campus, what's going on at that campus. If you were to ask me at any given moment, what's going on the Clarkston campus right now, I can tell you.
Really.
I can't give you perfect details, but I can tell you, for example, they're going to have their last Senate meeting and their last event of the year tomorrow, I believe. So again, just kind of like just knowing what's going on. I think that's what I learned from my other presidents. But I think that I've lived up to a greater bar just because I was able to learn from their mistakes and build on that.
Oh yeah, that's very important. You know, you have to learn from people's mistakes, improve on it, become a
Yeah,
better person overall.
exactly.
But do you believe you could call on Brianna and Xavier, is
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
anytime to give you the advice that you need if you feel like you're struggling?
I do, and I'll make one more point on that. You should want the people that come after you to do better than you did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of times we struggle with that. We do so well that we don't want people to fail after us, but we don't want anyone to outshine us.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I think that that's one more thing that I saw from my predecessor. He wanted me to do better than he did. And the same thing. No, I'll never forget. I reached out to Brianna
Mm,
and I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about leaving this organization, this other org that I'm in, and I'm thinking about leaving it, and I'm kind of nervous about leaving it. I don't know if I should do both, do this and do SGA." And she was like, and I asked her because she did both organizations. And I said, "What do you think?" She said, "Leave the organization." She said, "You are going to,"
okay.
yeah, she said, "Leave it." She said, "I did both, but I couldn't really juggle both at the same time." She
Mm-hmm.
said, "You will do a better job than me as president." I can already see that. So you need to be fully focused. And that meant the world to me. I don't think that she recognized how much that meant to me. Because for her to say to me just openly, I know that you're going to do better than I did.
Hmm.
I hope to someday give that to my predecessor and say, I want you to do better than I did. I want you to do more. I want you to go farther and faster. That's the goal. But I do believe I can call on them, and I have. I've called on Xavier a lot for advice. And
Hmm.
I've gotten to the point also, you have to be careful with that. You don't want to ask people for so much advice that you start doubting yourself. The
Yeah.
more you ask for advice, I think the more you subconsciously let yourself know, I can't do this, or I can't make this decision.
So how do you know when it's enough?
You that's my leadership struggle, because part of it, like when you have self-doubt and you have imposter syndrome
Hmm.
and you don't know what to do, it creates a perfect storm. I think for the first few months, seek advice, seek counsel.
Yeah.
But you need to identify a point where you can say, okay, I want to spend, let's say that you get inaugurated in May and the school year starts in August.
Yeah.
I want to spend May, June, and July just learning. I just want to learn. I want to meet with my predecessor. I want to meet with my advisors, meet with my school administrators. I just want to learn from everybody.
How to become a better leader.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in August, I want to be able to hit the ground running and actually start doing.
Hmm.
Now, it's important to note that you'll never have it fully. You'll never fully have it. And it's important to always be willing to learn and have an open mind.
Hmm.
But you got to get to a point where you need to know, how do I make my decisions? And like my predecessor, his bar is, if I look back on this decision 10 years from now,
Hmm.
knowing what I knew then, would I be proud of that decision? That's his bar for
That's
making a
powerful.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. My bar for a decision is, how is this decision going to impact others?
Mm.
That's my bar. I want to know how this will impact other people. If it's going to negatively impact other people, I'm going to start saying, hey, let's slow down, let's wait. If I know it'll positively impact other people, then full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. So I would just say, to answer your question, it's important to ask for advice. It's important to seek counsel. It's important to, learn from other people. But you want to kind of identify a point where you want to be comfortable standing on your own, and you want to identify, what is my decision making process? What is the most important thing for me?
Hmm.
Is the most important thing for me my peace later on down the road, knowing that I did my best? Is the most important thing to me the people around me and how my decisions will impact them? Is the most important thing financial, how my decisions impact our budget? What is guiding your decision making? And then go from there.
All right, and you're like the leader of over 50,000 students at Georgia
Yes.
State. So
Yes.
I know you see common issues with people trying to experience success. What do you think is one of the biggest issues that are stopping students from gaining the success that they want?
I would say one of the biggest barriers, of course, is cost. College is expensive.
Hmm.
Georgia State is relatively inexpensive. You get a really great education for what you're paying for. I really
Hmm.
think that you do. Cost is a barrier. Um, and I think another barrier is now external factors. So, the federal government is cutting research grants and funding for a lot of colleges and universities.
Hmm.
They are making a lot of attacks on DEI and this and that. So I think that we're in a challenging climate for higher education, and I think that that is going to present some barriers to student success.
Hmm.
Like, for example, the Department of Education manages our student loans. They manage our student loans. They manage civil rights compliance to make sure that we're safe and protected on campus. They do a lot, and now a lot of their workforce is gone. So now all those different functions are being scattered across different agencies. That is going to make processes slower. That is going to make things more confusing. That's going to make the technology that we use, like the FAFSA portal, it's going to make it more ineffective.
Hmm.
I think that one barrier that we're facing right now is just the fact that it's a challenging time for higher ed.
Now, with what they're doing with the Department of Education and stuff, where do you think we're going from here?
I think we're going to go to a place where, well, I mean, I think a lot of people now in this country are attacking education
Mm.
because they understand that an educated population is a powerful population. An uneducated population is a controllable population. The more uneducated someone is, the more you can control them, the more
Mm.
you can manipulate them, the more you can feed them a certain narrative, and they believe it, unfortunately. And so we're heading to a place where the attacks on education are going to continue getting greater and greater. And we're heading to a place where higher education, we're going to have to really stand together. Colleges, universities, trade schools, community colleges, we're going to have to really stand together and really uh, help each other articulate the value of an education.
Mm-hmm.
Why should you want to be educated? And I just read something about how black men, for example,
Mm-hmm.
are being educated. They're getting a higher education at much lower rates than they were 10, 20 years ago. That's bad.
Really,
That's
it's a
bad.
decline
Yeah,
right
there's a
now.
decline. There's a
Wow.
decline. I think I read that it was a decline specifically at HBCUs. A lot less black men are going to HBCUs. Um, but I mean,
I was not aware of that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but we know that black women are significantly more educated than black men.
Mm.
That's not good.
Why do you think that?
So I think that black women are more educated than black men for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons is, of course, they know that they're going into a more hostile work environment than black men.
Mm.
They're going into a more hostile work environment than black men, white women, anybody. So they know that they need to be able to prove their skills, prove their knowledge, and prove that they can be impactful in the workforce.
Wouldn't you argue that black men have the same issue though?
Black men
I would
do.
say that I've talked to plenty of black men that were like, I'm going into this environment and I know a lot of people don't want me to succeed in
Yeah,
this environment.
that's true. Black men do, but black women have it, I'd say, worse. I'd say that black women do have it worse
Mm-hmm.
because they are black and they are also women at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because they are also women, they're dealing with different issues relating to, having children in the workforce and how that impacts your standing at your job.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of places you have a lot less protections than you should as a pregnant employee. So black women, I think, are at more of a disadvantage than black men when it comes to the workforce. And so black women are in a place, I think, where they know they have to come in and be better. They have to be verifiably better than their opponents, than their competition in the workforce. And so I think that that's one reason that you see black women generally becoming more educated than black men. And that trend has been happening for a while now. That's been happening for a while now. We've got to get black men to that same level. We've got to really articulate the value of education to black men. That's got to happen because there's $1 million difference. I think that our university system, our chancellor, he's communicated a lot. I don't know exactly what study it was, but it's been proven that a person with a college education is said to make, I believe, $1 million more either over the course of their lifetime or over the course of a certain period of years
Mm.
than their counterpart without a degree. So having a degree sets you apart and it sets you on a path to make more, to earn more, to know more, and to do more in society.
Yeah,
We've got to get black men on that path.
I have heard that argument, and I've done some research on it. I believe just a little bit, and I think they're taking into the fact that uh, they're having people who are doctors and lawyers, and they're patching them all in with other people who go into other majors. So at the end of the day, to a certain extent, that is true, but it also depends on what type of job you decide to go into.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are plenty of jobs, you could get a degree and stuff, might not pay as well as other jobs. Because lawyer and doctor, they're making big money.
Yeah.
So, but to like end it off, what's a quote or motto that you carry on in your life and that you apply to yourself?
I'd say Theodore Roosevelt, his speech, "The Man in the Arena."
Mm.
He gave it, I believe, in like 1909 or 1908 or somewhere like that. But he basically just says that the credit always belongs to the person who is actually doing the work, the
Mm-hmm.
person who's actually putting themselves in front of people for their judgment, the person who is actually working hard, has the blood, the sweat, and the tears to back it up. That person, whether they win or they lose, whether they fail or they achieve, that person deserves the credit.
Mm.
um, because there is there's something to be said about trying. There's something to be said about putting yourself out there and trying when a lot of people don't. You've got a lot of people. We've got 50,000 students at Georgia State. You have a lot of people who are scared to try. They don't want to try. They don't know if they can try. They're watching. They're watching other people who are trying. And
Mm.
the people that are trying, a lot of times we feel nervous. We feel scared. We feel like people are watching us. We feel like we don't know what to do. And I feel like that quote just reminds me half of the battle is already won. You showed up. You
Mm-hmm.
showed up to fight. You showed up to do. You showed up to win, to achieve. That's already half the battle. The next half is all up to you. But you've already won half the fight right then and there just by showing up and by having the courage to set yourself apart. I think that it all gets back to the virtue of courage. Having courage.
Mm.
It's one of the most important things you can have in life.
Yeah. And as final thoughts, basically agree with most of the things that you said. I would say for the black woman, black men argument that you're making, definitely for sure, black women are going into jobs and have more education than they've ever had.
Yeah,
I would like to say that on the flip side, though, I think black men have shown more initiative than ever to try to go after education and to try to receive jobs. Sometimes it's just opportunities that are going against us, and sometimes that's not highlighted in media. But yes, I do agree to a certain extent. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And I think that it really gets down to just understanding we need to better articulate the value of education, not just higher education, but education period to black youth.
Mm,
We have to help them understand your future is not on a football field or a basketball court. For 99.9% of our black youth, your future is not in athletics. It's
mm,
not in influencing. It's not on YouTube or on TikTok or on social media.
mm,
Your future is something that you create. And the best way for you to create your future, the best tool that you have to build your future is education.
mm.
And education doesn't mean that you need a college degree.
Yeah.
Education can be a certificate.
Hmm.
Education can be a trade school. Education can be a license. You
Yeah.
going to cosmetology school for a year and getting a license. But education is the biggest and the best tool that you have to build your future.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you having this interview with me. It was great and it was very informative. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, thanks for watching the video. I just wanted to add a little bit more context to the conversation I had with James and the whole idea of, you know, black men's education has been decreasing since like the late 1900s. That's something that James had pointed out within our conversation. And even though he had pointed that out, I did let him know I disagreed. And, he came back and he added that, yeah, black men don't necessarily have to go through school in order to succeed. I just wanted to reiterate that point. Just because there's less education for black men now than there was about 30, 40, 50 years ago, this doesn't necessarily mean that we're more foolish or less successful than we've ever been. Uh, it's just different career paths. We live in an age of technology, and success is not only limited to, becoming a doctor or a lawyer or any other, job that we know pays very well. Success is not only limited to education. You don't necessarily have to go to school to succeed now. With technology being introduced, we have more opportunities than we ever had. So, the whole idea behind this channel is that there are different definitions of success, and whatever field you decide to go into, we interview these people so that you can best prepare yourself for that type of position. So, let's not get the whole idea confused of, well, success is only limited to how much education you have. Because there's a lot of people who get education in college and high school, and it may not have necessarily been beneficial to what they wanted in their career or for themselves. So, once again, I just want to reiterate the point that, just because we might have a little bit less education than we had, about 40, 50 years ago, doesn't necessarily mean that we're dumber than ever or that we need to get our act together. No, that's far from the truth. That just means we have more opportunities than ever, and education is not the only path we have to take in order to succeed. So, with that, I appreciate you checking out the interview, and y'all stay safe. Thank you.